Give me 1 second here. 1 second. Alright, back in here. Let me turn this down a bit. We're just gonna have that as background music. Alright, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're gonna get straight into it. Again, we're gonna keep this under an hour. We're just gonna go into 2022 predictions. So you see I'm talking without the mic filter. Getting my ASMR on. Because I basically have to learn how to speak without the filter. Because like when you're talking straight into the mic like this, if you blow into the mic, or the B's and the P's, so it's like you got to talk a certain way to allow your voice to even go straight through the mic without causing any interference. So I've been doing some practice with that. But anyway, let me actually slow this down even more. There we go. We're going to take it straight into the fucking inferno. Let's get into it. We're not going to waste no more time. 93, I see you, Josh. 93. In the name of 93, you already know. So, this was not planned. I did not wake up thinking about making a video. You already know how it is. This is a straight spirit. Literally just came from freezing weather. It's about 32 degrees here in the desert of Las Vegas, the Mojave Desert to be exact. So you can actually see your breath is probably colder in other places, I'm sure. But this is essentially how it don't get no colder than this for the most part, right? Excuse me. I'm over here eating some Latin candy. I don't want to say Mexican, it may not be Mexican, but anyway, you know they like everything hot, so it's mouth is on fire right now. Let's get straight into it. So when it comes to 2022, all we have to do is study the numbers to find out what exactly is going to occur on the world stage. Now, if you want to know what's going to occur on the individual stage, on your individual stage, that is the purpose of getting a numerology chart done. So this is not necessarily telling you how you're going to be affected personally, but this is what we will all experience on a collective level. So on a collective level, and again, we see, I may need to put this mic filter on, you see. Let me just lower this a little bit. Again, this takes a little technique to get this right and exact. So I want to be able to speak without, so you see I can speak now without too much interference. Anyway, the main emphasis in 2022 will be the number 2. If we know anything about again, I gotta put the ASMR voice on. I gotta put the ASMR voice because this may be unpleasant to the ears if I keep speaking like this. So let me get it right again. It's not planned. It's just led by spirit. So let me talk a little softer. So hopefully it's not going to be as harsh. All right. So I basically have to do this kind of whisper. See, it's a little bit more pleasant if I do it like that. So I'm gonna speak a little bit more slowly so that. Yeah, there we go. See, if I speak like this, get my genie on, then it's a lot more pleasant. There we go. See, even if I pronounce the P's and the B's, it's not. There we go. So I got to speak a little lower. All right. So if we approach 2022 and we study the numerology of the number 2 and also the number 0, we have the number 2 repeating 3 times. Right? But before we go into that, this is going to be occurring for the next, I guess, 8 years, because we're in 2022. So for the next 8 years, we will be experiencing the 202. What I mean by the 202 is, no matter if it's 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, the common denominator for the next 8 years that started in 2020 is at 202. So again, whether it's in 2020, 2021, we're still dealing with that 202. We understand 2 to be the energy of the moon. We understand 0 to be the energy of Pluto. We understand Pluto represents the masses. The moon represents the public. So the fact that we're dealing with a global pandemic, something that is affecting the masses. Give me 1 second here. 1 second. Again, eating this hot candy. Got my nose running all over the place. Again, got a whole pack of this stuff. It's my first time getting this. Well, you can see the little hot pepper here. So you know what type of time they on. Again, it may be reverse, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into it. So the main emphasis will be on the 2 and the 0. I'm just gonna look down, because like I'm doing too much right now. I'm trying to focus on the camera and speak. I'm like, let me just close my eyes. I'm just gonna close my eyes and just reveal the message. I'm not even, because it's too much right now. Because then I'm gonna end up. It's just not gonna be pleasant. You see what I mean? It's not gonna be pleasant. So let me stop all that. Let me just focus. I gotta 100% focus on this. So I apologize. I gotta focus. If the number 2 deals with the energy of the moon, and the moon represents the public, Pluto represents the intensity of emotion. So the fact that the masses or the public is dealing with intensified emotions, and we already know that there are many, many, many people passing away. We also know that this involves Pluto, as Pluto is the lord of the underworld, aka Hades, dealing with death and transformation. To the fact that we are experiencing death and transformation on a wide scale, this is the results of the 2 and the 0. And because there's a double 2 in the 202, there's a double 2, so that means the public is extra affected by what we would like to call the death currency. So when we had a third number 2, 2022, now we got the 2 manifesting in the triple darkness. Now we have to go into the dark side of the moon, as we're dealing with a triple moon, the triple goddess, the 3 phases of the moon, so on and so forth. So now we're going into the land of the witches. So expect 2022 to be highly influenced by what we will call witchcraft, what we will call dealing with the warlocks of the world. Now let me make this point, because I've been receiving a lot of information recently. The only difference between what we will consider the elites and then the masses, truly the only difference between someone who is an elitist or an elite and everyone else is their understanding of the occult. What do I mean by that? The reason we see all this strangeness happening amongst what we will consider the elites, whether it's their sexual practices, their use of blood sacrifice, all this stuff that everybody emphasizes but have no understanding of. It's because they have went beyond duality, whereas the masses remains stuck in polarity. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. This is why we are constantly fed with duality. Again, red or blue, Democrat, Republican. We're always given these two options, this left versus this right hand path, left hand path. We're always given this duality. But this is not how the elites think. They think in singular terms because they understand the workings of the universe. If we understand the workings of the universe, everything is singular. Everything is monotheistic. So the fact that we have to deal with what we will call the scales of Libra, this is the result of the mind. This is the illusion that we call Maya. So the illusion that we call Maya is a natural phenomenon that the brain does. The brain separates things naturally. And this is what causes illusions, because the brain is naturally separating. That's why someone is either a man or a woman. Right? We naturally separate things, but this is what causes Maya. This is what causes illusion. This is what causes so much hardship in this world. It's because of the way we think, because it's propaganda. That's also Pluto. Pluto represents propaganda. So because Pluto represents propaganda, propaganda being pushed to the masses, propaganda being pushed to the public, propaganda being pushed to influence your emotions and even your intuition. So our intuition and our emotions, or basically our subconscious mind, is being influenced by propaganda, which we clearly see. We see this with what's going on with vaccines, with the COVID, so on and so forth. We see propaganda being pushed upon the public. They are threatening your whole livelihood, as we clearly see. No matter where you are on the planet, your whole livelihood is being threatened because of propaganda. Even though they say it's about following the science, it is strictly propaganda to influence your subconscious mind. Because any decision made from fear would not lead to prosperity. Keep this in mind. Any decision you make because of fear, or because you don't want to deal with a certain reality, if you make another decision, will not lead to paradise. This will not lead to comfort. So if your back is against a wall or against the wall, and you make a decision based off of your emotionalism at the time, we know that that's not going to lead you to a heavenly place. Because we know when we study the law of attraction, you must create from a sense of peace. You cannot create from a sense of lack. You cannot be wanting something or craving something and expect to magnetize it to yourself, because you are creating separation when you do that. Just think about it. If you yearn for something, if you desire something, if you want something that you don't have, or that appears you don't have it, and now you must take the steps to get what you don't have, that is a illusion of Maya, because we are everything and everything is us. So if we are everything and everything is us, there is no separation between the objective reality and the subjective reality, because subjectively you have everything. If you can imagine yourself with whatever it is that you desire, you already have it, because you can place it into your imagination. If it can be placed into the imagination, that means it can be acquired. So the fact that we can place something in our imagination, then we go about seeking it, that is incorrect. There is no need to seek what you already are. This is what do people say? You got to find yourself. We are not lost. How can you find something that is not physical, that transcends Maya. In other words, we transcend Maya. We navigate through Maya, but we are not of Maya. As they say, 1 foot in this world, 1 foot out this world. So yes, we walk the surface of the planet, but we are not limited to the surface of the planet. So we have the ability to build our astral body, to build our etheric bodies, to build our Merkaba, so that we can go beyond illusion, so that we can go beyond Maya. So if we have the ability to go beyond Maya, we cannot look at ourselves as lacking anything, because we don't. It's just a fact that it has to be generated from within. It has to be built. It doesn't just exist. So essentially what I'm getting at is, we cannot do anything from fear, from a state of lack, thinking that we don't have it and we need to go out in the world and get it, as they call being a go-getter. This is not the time to be a go-getter. Not 2020 and beyond. We're dealing with lunar energy now. We're not dealing with solar energy. That's the sun. The sun tells you to get up and hustle, hustle, hustle. That's solar energy. But we're dealing with a triple lunar energy. We are now in the triple darkness. So all of the so-called resources are drying up. Everybody is holding on to their resources. It's not too many people that's just throwing out money everywhere, just freely and haphazardly. So we must go into the inverse reality. We must go within. We must ensure the fact that we are not influenced by the propaganda that is being pushed. Because remember, this triple lunar reality will manifest. So if you work from a place of fear, all it's going to do is intensify. That is the energy of Pluto. Pluto is going to intensify everything. So what is being intensified? The subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is being intensified. So whatever you hold inside of your subconscious, so that includes fear, that includes trauma, that includes, holding grudges against people, any of this will be emphasized. So if you're mad at somebody for what they did in the past or what they're doing now, it's going to be emphasized. It's going to be intensified. This is why we must balance the scales of Mayat. We cannot allow our own weaknesses to destroy us, because that's why Pluto is there. Pluto will initiate your ass into the underworld if you allow yourself to be taken down by your own grudges, by your own hardships, by your own traumas. If you decide to do that, you will be taken into the inferno to be cleansed, which is what's happening to most people. Most people are being initiated into the inferno because they are being cleansed. There's too much weight on their heart. People still mad at other people for something that happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. It's people still mad. That's not how you unlock the heavenly gates. That's not how you manifest. That's how you stay exactly where you are, and you just go further and further and further into the darkness, and you don't have a torch to navigate your way out, because we placed ourselves there. We can't blame anyone else. And this is what I'm saying. This is why we must operate from the bigger self, or our higher self. Because if we operate from our higher self, we don't allow others to bring us down. You don't care what a person did. You're not going to be mad in your heart, because you understand that does not serve you. Even if you have the right to be mad. See, this is the thing. People feel like they have the right to be mad. Well, this person did X, Y, and Z, so I have a right to be upset. I have a right to be angry, but we really don't. Because it doesn't affect them. It affects us. They're living their life doing whatever fuck shit that they're doing, while we're still mad. So it still affects us. It's not affecting them. They're still up to their own same trickery. They ain't changed a goddamn thing about themselves, but it changes us. It was traumatic to us. It was intense to us. So it lowers us, because now we're not operating from the higher self. Now we're operating from the lower self. And this is essentially what I'm getting at here. Anything done from the lower self becomes a sin. Anything done from the lower self becomes a sin. So if sin exists, it is because all acts are done from the lower self. Let me give you a very, very good example of what I mean. If we do anything from the lower head, essentially thinking with our dick, thinking with the pussy, thinking with the phallus, thinking with the yoni, it is a sin because it is done in selfishness. So the only sin that exists is selfishness. Any selfish act becomes a sin. What do I mean? If we look at all the hardships in the world, it comes from selfishness. What do I mean? If even love. So let me give you a example of love, because we feel love is so pure. It's not. It's not if it's done out of selfishness. Let me give you an example. If you love a person for selfish reasons, it's not true love. It is a selfish love. And if you have a selfish love, that's why people get into what we call now situationships. What is a situationship? Or what is that other word? A fucking entanglement. Fucking women be inventing these terms as they go, entanglements and shit. That's the lower self. You end up in stupid ass situations because you're operating from your lower head. So if you look at the majority or the masses, they're all about the lower self because they're selfish. So the only thing different, again, between the so-called elites and the masses is selfishness. Any act you commit in selfishness will lead to sin. What do I mean? If you're just out here fucking because that's what you want to do, because you want to give yourself pleasure, and you're not thinking about nobody else, meaning you're not conceiving children, you can say that would be an act of love. You're having sex for the purpose of procreation. That's an act of love. But if you're just out here fucking haphazardly for your own selfish pleasures, then it becomes what we call fornication. You see what I mean? Because it's done in selfishness. If you're just thinking about your own personal pleasure and you're going to go out into the world seeking your own personal pleasure, it will lead to sin. It doesn't matter what you do because it's not coming from the heart. Any act that does not come from the heart is a sin. And don't let anybody else tell you different. If you are not operating from the heart center, it is a sin. And if you are out here sinning, you will have to go through the inferno to get cleansed, which is not lovely. It's not the easiest thing to go through, but it's to help us to get out of selfishness. So when we think about the 7 deadly sins, for example, all of those are rooted in selfishness. Whether we're talking about greed, lust, what is this all type? It's all type of gluttony. All that is selfish. All this comes from selfishness. I'm going to eat until my body can't take no more. That is a selfish act. Gluttony, that is selfish. Greed, I'm going to make all the money and I don't care about how nobody else feels about it. That is selfishness. Lust, I'm going to satisfy my own desires. Selfishness. Why? Because that's not how the spirit works. Because if we are operating from the higher self, or we are operating from the spirit, look how this changes the dynamics. So let me give you an example of operating from the higher self. This is the difference between marriage versus a sacred marriage. See, what do most people do? Most people get married for selfish reasons. Because you like a person, because again, they satisfy you on a personal level. It is personal. It has nothing to do with the collective. I like this person for whatever reasons you like them. No problem. If we're talking about a sacred marriage, aka a marriage to a spirit form, now you're not talking about, okay, I love this spirit because of selfishness. Now we see this is a whole different dynamic. This is what I mean. When we are operating from the astral plane, when we're operating from the higher self, we don't have to deal with this foolishness. We don't have to deal with the foolishness. because you have to be pure of heart to even do things like this. This is why most people, they can claim to be spiritual, but they're really not. There's no spirituality in selfishness. There's nothing spiritual about that. But we see this is all people do. Every single, you got people that wake up since from the moment they wake up to the time they lay their head down, it's completely filled with selfishness. They have done nothing for the collective. They have done nothing for the spirit. It's just selfishness all the way around. But you can see it in their aura. You can feel it in their aura. That's why certain people's energy feels off. It feels whack because like, damn, this motherfucker is super selfish. They have no intention of doing anything for the collective, for the greater good. So again, going back to the scales that you had to place your heart on against the feather of Mayat. This is what keeps our heart heavier than a feather. It is selfishness. If you just spent your life doing selfish acts, your heart will be greater than the feather, and you will have to get your soul devoured and reincarnated. Because you did not activate your true will, you activated your free will. And this is why I keep emphasizing the difference between free will and true will. Most people are out here doing their free will, doing whatever the fuck they want, for whatever selfish reason they want to do it. It's just completely free will. That's why this world is the way it is. It's because people are out here doing free will, not thinking about nobody but their goddamn self. Just completely free will. If you operate from the true will, now you're thinking about the collective. You're thinking about the greater good. You realize that your words, ways, and actions are for the benefit of the collective. So that means everything you do, every act you commit is for the greater good. And if we understand how creation works, if we understand how manifestation works, you can take care of yourself at the same time. See, this is the thing. The reason why people are just so heavy about money getting, and they got to be a go-getter, they got to hustle, they got to get over, because this is selfish. You have to have that survival mentality if you are operating from selfishness. That's why it's the root chakra. Survival is the root chakra. That means you're operating on the root chakra level. You have to, because you're on survival time. But if we're talking about the crown, but even before we get to the crown, if we talk about the heart is a bridge into your higher self. Your higher self is the three upper chakras: the crown chakra, the third eye, and the throat chakra. In order to get to the higher three chakras, you have to go through the gateway, the bridge, called the heart center. The heart center is where your higher self is. Your higher self is not in your brain. Your higher self is in your heart. So the highest, most exalted part of yourself is in your heart. So if you are operating from the heart, then you have access to your supernatural abilities. The reason why most people don't have access to their supernatural abilities because they can't cross over their heart consciousness. Why? Because they're still upset. They're still traumatized. They're still thinking about these past events that fucked them up. And they ain't getting over it because they want to stay mad because they feel like they have the right to. I had a hard life, so this is the way I am. I am a product of my environment. This is just how I was raised. This is how my mom did me, my father did me. It's just all these reasons of why people, what excuses they come up with, rather. People can come up with all type of excuses as to why they are the way they are, and none of those excuses matter. Fuck every single last excuse, because there is no excuse to operate from the lower self if you consider yourself spiritual. That means you cannot use excuses for your behavior, for your actions. You cannot use excuses. That cannot, because you're gonna suffer more than somebody who don't know. So this is why all these spiritual people, they're gonna suffer a very fucked up fate. And I'm the first one to tell you, all these so-called spiritual people, their fate will be sealed. It's going to be very fucked up, because you're supposed to be the one that's helping others to see the light. How can you help others see the light when you're still mad about what the fuck happened in your childhood? You're still mad at your ex. You're still mad at what somebody did to you in the past, or what someone is doing to you now. You cannot consider yourself spiritual and you still have the same emotions and sensations that the masses have. What makes you any different if you're still mad like the other person is mad? like everybody else. Everybody else got a reason to be mad at something. Either mad at the government, mad at the system, mad at their partner, mad at anything, whatever, wherever they want to point their finger. We cannot hold ourselves back. Get out of sin. I'll be the first one to tell you. Get out of sin. Stop sinning. Get out of the lower head. Stop the dick and pussy shit. Stop it. Just look at the world. Stop it. Look at all of, like, people are killing each other over dick and pussy. People are killing each other over money. People are losing their whole lives over lower dimensions because they choose to stay there. They choose to stay on survival mode. We have to get out of that. You're not going to create anything worthwhile from a state of survival. But if you are operating from the heart, now everything is yours. Now you operate from a state of abundance because you can manifest your creativity from love, not lower love, not personal love, higher love, divine love. Once you start to operate from divine love, now your creativity is in abundance. Now your third eye can see all things. Now you are connected with cosmic intelligence because you have crossed over the bridge of the heart. Now you're operating from the higher self. You don't give a fuck about what anybody did, what anybody said. You don't care about none of that. You let it all go. Send it to hell. Send all that bullshit to hell to be eaten by the demons. That's what they're for. Give all that bullshit to the demons that everybody else is so afraid of. They're so afraid of it because they're still operating from their lower self. Of course you're going to be afraid of a demon when the demon can influence you because you're still mad about some shit, and then they bring up that madness that's still within you. That's why people don't fuck with demons, because they're still in their lower self. If you're not in your lower self, you can give all that energy to the demons and not give a fuck about it. Then you actually get something out of it. They actually may give you some game because you fed them. You feed them what you no longer want. All that dead energy, you give it to the demons. Then you open up to angels. Because angels don't want to deal with, again, they're not operating from their lower self. They're operating from their higher self. They don't give a fuck about none of that. So when you feed all that bullshit to the demons, now you open yourself up to the angelic plane. That's why most people don't dream. Most people are not into the astral. You have to operate from the higher self. Most people still trying to dream, still trying to do stupid ass shit. They're thinking about what car they want to drive, what type of house they want. Like, all this is lower shit. None of that matters. It does not matter. It matters to us on a personal level, but it really should not matter if you're thinking about the greater whole. If you're thinking about how many people can I help today versus how many bitches can I get today. You see, there's a big ass difference between this. If you're thinking about how many people you can help, now you can operate from abundance because it ain't based on money. It's not based on dick and pussy. You see what I mean? You can help people in so many ways just by talking to people, giving people gifts. You have an abundance to work from because, again, you can just give people your energy to make them feel better. How many people are you making feel better versus how many people are you hurting because you're still mad at shit? You're in a current relationship still mad at the previous person, and now that person that you're dealing with now still got to deal with the trauma you underwent from the past. That's not dealing in fairness. That's not dealing in equality. That's why most people's whole situations are destroyed, because they're still focused and they're still attached. This is attachment. This is what the Buddha spoke about. We keep reincarnating because of attachment to anything. We are still attached to lower energies instead of feeding it to the demons, which is what they're here for. They're here to feed off of lower energy. So if people's whole lives is lower energy, that's why they can get overtaken by negativity and darkness. And they can't find their way out because this is where they operate from. So this is why you have the priest and the priestess, the nuns, the holy harlots, the pimps. You have people that's not operating from the lower head. Like, all right, I'm not about to be on dick and pussy time. Just look at the music. I keep saying that because it's in our music. If music is your soundtrack of life and this is all you're feeding yourself, violence and sex. We know that this is what rap, not hip hop, rap music and industry music is just all about lower shit. Violence. How violent can you be? How much sex you can have and how good the pussy is, how good the dick is. It's like shit that you shouldn't give a fuck about. Why do you care about what someone else did? We shouldn't even care about this shit. But you see, this is all we care about. The masses. So when I say we, I'm speaking about the masses. This is why the masses' intelligence is low. You lower your intelligence when you're operating from the lower self. So if the whole soundtrack of life is based off the lower self, telling you to be a hustler, telling you to be a go-getter, telling you to poison your people, telling you to be toxic, that's all music has become. It's just straight toxicity. And then you're promoting that, you're feeding on that daily foods. Your daily food is bullshit. We cannot be upset about the effect because it goes directly into our subconscious and it influences our subconscious and influences our emotional state, and it causes us to be the way we are, to stay in the lower self. So we must rise from the dead. If we do not rise from the dead, our destination will be the inferno. Not to visit, but to be in a permanent state. See, most of us in the inferno, we're just journeying through it. So I talk about the inferno all the time. This because I'm journeying through this bitch. This is not my destination. I understand I'm not perfect. I had to go through the inferno because I have been operating from my lower self. So all this applies to me as well. That's why I speak so much about the inferno. I have to cleanse myself so that I ensure that I'm operating from the heart center and not the lower self, because I have done so before. I can think about it. Any woman I dealt with, and I'm thinking with my lower head, it didn't turn out good. And I'm sure so many people can attest to this. When it was just all dick and pussy time, I like what I see. Let me see what I can do about it. Operating from that level is not going to end well. Versus when you're operating from the heart. Damn, this person's aura is just brilliant. It soothes me. You ain't even thinking about, okay, when am I going to lay down with this person? You don't even have to lay down with this person. You don't even have to physically touch this person. If it's from the heart center, you don't even have to touch the person. It can be strictly a psychosexual relationship. But again, most people ain't trying to hear that shit. That's not, again, we're trying to speed into the yoni. We're trying to speed into the phallus. Like that'd be the first thing on people's mind instead of that should be the last thing on your mind, not the first thing. But it becomes the first thing when that's all the music we hear. The music pushes that to the forefront. That makes us think about this first instead of last. So when we think about that last, and the first thing we think about is energy. We think about the body last. We think about the aura and the energy and the spirit body first. And that goes for everybody, not just someone that you consider a relationship or a life partner. This goes for every being that you operate with. You operate it from the higher self. How can I help you? How can I be of assistance to you? Again, we wouldn't have a homeless problem if people thought like this. The reason why we see people fucked up on the streets and can't help themselves is because this is how the world is. We just driving past motherfuckers in selfishness, or we can't do nothing for them. May have a pocket full of money, car full of change, and ain't doing nothing for nobody but self. So we know this is the currency of the world. The world wants to operate on satanic time. Even if they don't consider themselves worshippers of Satan, that's basically what they're doing. This is strictly satanic. It's just strictly low-level vibrational shit. And you can't rise yourself above that because, again, we are operating from selfishness. And so it creates sin. Sin comes from selfishness. It don't matter what sin. Any act of selfishness will become a sin. Any act of love, divine love, not because you love, okay, I love my wife, so I'm going to give her the world. What about everybody else? That's personal love. I love my children, so I'm going to give them the world. That's personal. What about everybody else? Do they not deserve that same equality? It ain't that you got to put money in their pocket. Again, you can give your energy. And don't charge them a goddamn thing. Not because you obligated, because this is who you are. You are a divine being. You can't consider yourself a divine being, a god or a goddess, whatever titles we want to throw on ourselves, if we're not operating from the higher self. If we are not, our acts are not for the greater good. We're just thinking about our own personal universe. You're trying to be the master of your own universe, not the entire universe. And this will be my last point, because I know it's pretty much an hour. Okay, we have 48, not 48. We have 41 minutes. We got 20 minutes left. Again, I'm trying to get all this out as quickly as I can. If you're only thinking about your own personal universe and not the entirety of the universe, you're missing the point. If you're just all about, okay, how can I create my own reality? How can I manifest what I desire? Me. If that's all your thoughts revolve around, then don't expect happiness. You may get results. You may attract a certain person, certain job, certain lifestyle. You may get these things. I'm not saying that you won't get them, but the results is not going to be what you were expecting them to be, because they came from the lower self. It came from satanic time, when it should be Luciferian time. Remember, Lucifer resurrected from the darkness. Again, we ain't even got to get into that story. It just is what it is. We don't even, that's going to take a little longer to explain. I'm trying to keep this short as possible. Just don't sin. This is my message. Stop sinning. I know we all are, including me. I am very much included in this. This is why I want to convey this to everyone. I've been receiving these things from Spirit, so I want to share it with everyone. I don't want to just keep it within myself. I want to share it with the collective, because I know we all need to hear this, not just me. We all need to hear this. We cannot operate from sin and expect success. We cannot operate from sin and expect love, peace, and happiness. That's not how it works. Fuck money. It is all about currency. Manifest and generate currency. See, this is the greatest trick in the book. Because we don't make money, we have to subject ourselves to how money is made. AKA, you got to get a job, you got to do this, you got to do that, because we don't generate money. The money is generated by the government. So when the money is generated by the government, you basically have to make offerings to the government to get the money, because they print up the money. So if the government prints up the money, you have to make offerings to the government to get the money. But the government don't generate currency. So you don't have to make an offering to the government to generate currency, because we all have the ability to generate currency, because we are energy beings. We are generators, operators, and destroyers. God. We can generate, we can operate, and we can direct. So it can be destroyed, it can also be direct. So we know how to generate energy, operate energy, and direct energy. So we are the operator, the generator, and the director of currency, not money, currency. Now we begin to see, okay, all I need to do is generate, operate, and direct my currency, which is coming from the higher self, and I'll be okay. I don't need to fear. I don't need to worry, because I trust universal law. If you trust universal law, you understand that this is exactly what you should be doing with yourself, because this is how you activate the true will. Your true will doesn't care about your selfishness. Your true will does not care about your selfishness. Why? Because it doesn't even have to be a factor. So I'm not saying deny yourself of anything. What I'm saying is you have everything already, to the point where we don't even need to think about it. We don't need to think about how to satisfy our lower self. The lower self will be satisfied if we're operating from the higher self. This is what people don't realize. We don't need to be on survival mode just to get the basic necessities of life. We don't need to operate from survival. We can operate from love, divine love, not personal love. Because again, personal love just goes to the people you care about, not the world. You care about your family, your children, your ancestors. But that's as far as it goes. But the world is bigger than the people we know. The world is grander than just the people we can reach out and touch personally. especially if we're talking about astral dynamics. We can communicate with anybody, dead or alive, through the astral plane, so we see how vast this can get. We can help people in the inferno release their souls. You see, people, if you're not even thinking on this level, this is how you know. The astral plane is vast. We can free people from their suffrage through the astral plane. You can assist people like that. And this motherfucker is stuck. They need a torch. I got the torch. Let me go help them free their soul. And don't ask for shit in return, because you don't need it. You see what I mean? See, most people they're not even thinking about that. They're not thinking about that at all. Like that we can actually, you don't have to feed the homeless. I ain't telling you got to go out and feed the homeless and volunteer. If that's what you want to do, you can do it, but we're not limited to that. There's so many souls that are trapped in the inferno or elsewhere. Don't know what to do, where to go. You can help them. They're just souls that need some answers to questions that you may have the answers to. You can help them. Again, there's so much we can be doing when we operate from the higher self. You're not limited. And this is the point I'm making. We are not limited when we're operating from the higher self. There's so many people that need your assistance. There are so many spirits that need your assistance. And they will gladly give you exactly what you desire because you put them over yourself. You understood that currency is how I generate what I need. Whatever I need, everything has a cost. So in order for me to pay that cost, I must generate currency, and I can exchange that currency that I generated for the amount of money that I need to get whatever it is that I'm seeking. If we have no currency to transfer, now we have to subject ourselves to how people get money. Instead of transferring currency to money, we got to generate money. You see how we completely take out currency, and this is how the world works. This is what capitalism is. So this is why people are all over the place, because they're not thinking in the spiritual plane or the spiritual realm, because they're not there. You got to be in your higher self to even get there. You got to be in your higher self to even get to the spirit plane, so that you can see the work you truly need to do. If we're talking about our true will or divine will, that happens in the astral plane. That ain't even talking about nothing physical. That's what I'm saying. Our paths don't exist yet. What we came here to do does not exist yet. What you came here to do don't exist yet. So if I'm thinking, okay, I need to be a rapper, I need to be this, I need to be that, those paths already exist. You did not come here to walk down the path that already exists. You came here to generate a new path. So if you came here to generate a new path, we don't need to think about the previous path that other people walked. See, now you see, I'm getting emotional now. See how the mic is getting crazy. You see how I have to keep calm. See, the moment I start getting my emotions, you see all that popping. See, that's why I took off the filter. So I know if all that is happening, I need to calm myself down and I need to get back to my 0 point. Right. So let me get back to my 0 point and continue the message. We are locked out of the spiritual plane that we call the Akashic records. We are locked out of the Akashic records if we are operating from our lower self. So if you don't know what your purpose is, get out of your lower self. You have to unlock the Akashic records. Anybody can't just go up in there and get any information they want. You have to pass certain tests. Those tests is just getting out of your lower self. Getting out of your free will. I can do whatever I want because I can. It's like that mentality is not going to lead anybody anywhere. It just becomes destructive. When we think we're fulfilling our goals, we're actually being destructive because it's coming from a lower place. Because we're thinking about ourselves. But we are all one. But you see, people want to apply the law and the knowledge when they want to. If we are all one, helping others is helping yourself. If we are all one, this just makes sense. If we are all one, collective, helping others is helping yourself. It is only if we think about ourselves as separate individuals. I need to help myself, fuck everyone else. That is what creates sin, because that is not true. That is not true. So we sin when we accept falsehood. That's what creates sin. Sin is created when we accept falsehood. But if we accept the absolute truth, the more I help others, the more I help myself, the better I position myself to be in abundance, because I am giving others abundance. If you want abundance, you have to give abundance. That makes sense. But you see, most people don't think like that. They're trying to accumulate abundance while keeping everybody else poor. And this is why the world is fucked up. People want to generate their personal abundance and say fuck everybody else, when we should be thinking about the more abundance I can give everyone. I may not have an infinite amount of money, but I got an infinite amount of energy. I got an infinite amount of spirit. I got an infinite amount of soul force that I can easily give in abundance, and it doesn't tire me out. It doesn't take away from my energy. It makes me stronger. When you're helping, it's not taking away from your energy. It makes you stronger. Hence why I can get on this YouTube and talk 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. It makes me stronger when I give. It doesn't weaken me. It makes me stronger when I give, when I share, when I extend my soul, when I extend my spirit. It makes me stronger. It doesn't weaken me. It's the same for everyone else. We become stronger when we expand our soul force, when we expand our kundalini, so that others can appreciate it and feel it and benefit from it. So when we're thinking about the collective, how can I benefit the collective, whether on the spirit plane or the physical plane? And that's based on who you are. If you're a person that has access to an abundance of physical resources, then you can think about what you can do physically. If you have an abundance of spiritual resources, you can think about how you can help spiritually. We all have access to abundance. You just have to find out where your abundance is. And that's what the natal chart is for. That's what the astrology chart is for, numerology, whatever. This is why we practice occult science, so that we can figure out where our abundance is and start to give. Because once you discover your abundance, you giving of that abundance strengthens you. So like the more you give, the stronger you become, but you must give from abundance. So once you discover what that abundance is, then you realize, okay, I have to make myself stronger through my abundance, not my lack. You don't make yourself stronger from lack. You make yourself stronger from abundance. Find your abundance and then strengthen yourself to that God level or that goddess level. And once you strengthen yourself to the God or goddess level, that's us operating from our higher self, meaning we have to, just like, like a dead body floats on top of the water, but when you're alive, you sink. And this would be my last point. I said we have 53 minutes. When we are alive, if we jump into the water, we don't naturally float. We have to make ourselves float. We got to do all this extra shit to float. But when you're dead, you float naturally. A dead body is on top of the water. Why? What holds us down is what our spirit. When your spirit is operating, you sink because it makes us heavy. When the spirit is gone, you're light. We're lighter than a feather when it ain't no spirit. But when the spirit is within the body, then we're heavy as fuck. That's why it happens in reverse. Like if you try to pick up a person and they're awake, people are actually easier to pick up when they're awake. But if you try to pick up a person who's asleep, their body is heavy as fuck. Their bodies are super heavy. But it's light when the spirit, you see, it works in reverse. Again, we ain't even got to get too deep into that. The point is, find your abundance and give it to others in whichever way it makes sense, according to how you're built, according to your natal chart, according to your true will. Give from abundance. So whatever lack you think you have can be fulfilled because you chose to give instead of taking. You chose to give instead of manipulating and fucking people over and just staying, locked into your own subjective realities. You chose to expand outwardly because you found your abundance. And that's what changes our life. Our life changes not when we get abundance, not when you get $1 million, not when you get successful. That's what most people think. We think that we have to find our abundance. physically through material shit. No, the abundance starts in the spiritual plane. We come into this world with abundance of something. Every single person on this planet came into this world with an abundance of something, even if it's just strictly creativity. You have an abundance of creativity. With no material resources, that creativity or that currency can be generated, then that will attract resources, physical resources to you, because you're exercising what you have an abundance of. This is how the law works. And anybody telling you any different is leading you astray. Work from abundance. Work from peace. Work from divine love. Then everything will fall in place. And if you don't, it becomes a sin, and sinful acts have to be paid for in the inferno, and you're not going to like it. It's not going to be pleasant. Again, just look at the world. People are so fucked up because they're not in a happy place. You can't be in a happy place when you withhold your resources. You're not in a happy place when you have to withhold your resources. This is just for me and the people I love. That ain't coming from a happy place. You're not happy. That's not abundance. If only you and the people that's close to you benefit, that's not abundance. Abundance is anybody can get it. Whether I know you or I don't know you, anybody can get it. That's abundance. I'm going to give it to anybody that crosses my path. That's abundance. Not just the people that you love on a personal level for whatever reason you love them for. Right? And that's it. Damn. So we're going to keep this under an hour. That's the message. We out this bitch. 93, 93, 93.